May I have your attention, please? The Mayor of the County of Cork, Councillor Joe Carroll, Unti Shok, Michael Martin, the Indian Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, the Honourable Hardeep Singh Puri, the Canadian Minister of Public Safety, the Honourable Gary Anindra Sagari. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the victims' families, I welcome you all to the 40th anniversary of the Air India disaster. For the benefit of those who do not have a copy of today's program, I'll quickly run through this morning's intended format. At about 8:10 or 8:11, in between that period, we'll expect all our family members to assemble around the dial. And at 8:11, 55 seconds, L.E. William Butler Yeats will start a short siren, and on conclusion of the siren, we'll observe a minute's silence to be broken at 8:13 with prayers by the family. Next will be short religious readings. This will be followed by the laying of the wreath in memory of the victims. Next, there will be a performance by the Rosnakara School Choir. After the performance, wreaths will be laid by dignitaries and followed by speeches and vote of thanks. Next, there will be presentations by the Irish and the Navy, the Irish Coast Guards. There is a visitor's book on the wall besides the entrance gate, and I would request those who have not signed to please do so. And now, lastly, a request for those who have mobile phones to please ensure they are switched off or set on silent mode during the ceremony. Thank you. Can I request the victims' families to come take their place around the aisle, but facing towards the camera? Thank you. Bhuvasvaha Tassaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Om Bhuvasvaha Tassaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Om Bhuvasvaha Tassaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Om Trayambakam Yajamare Sugandhim Pustivardhanam Urvarkamiva Bandhanat Mrityurmukshiyamamritat Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadatyate Purnasya Purnamadhyaya Purnameva Tavasishyate Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. We start now with the religious readings. I invite Canon Paul Willoughby, representing the Church of Ireland.
This is a poem called Our God of Hope. There is a God whose light shines in every darkness. There is a God who hears every lament. There is a God who transforms even the deepest grief. Therefore, we have hope. We shall sing again, but with a different tune. We shall dance again, but with a different step. We shall laugh again, but with a different breath. Not yet, but one day, for there is a God who heals our wounds with the gentlest hand. Amen.
I invite Father John O'Dowan, representing the Catholic Church of Ireland.
Heavenly Father, we lift up those who are grieving, those who have lost loved ones, those who are hurting deeply. Wrap them in your loving arms, comfort their aching hearts, and grant them your peace. May they find strength in your presence and hope in your promises.
And Finally, I invite Sanjay Lazar to present a Hindu script reading.
The soul is never born and never dies, nor does it come to being again when the body is created. It is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. It is not slain when the body is slain. O Partha, Arjuna says, he knows who the soul to be indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable. How can that person kill or cause anyone to be killed? Just as a person discards old clothes and puts on new ones, the soul discards worn-out bodies and takes on new ones. Certain is death for the born, and certain is death for the dead. Thereover the inevitable you should not grieve. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes, he can become free from the cycle of birth, death, old age, and their distress, and can even enjoy the nectar in this life. A brief reading from the Guru Granth Sahib. Gurudev says, Janam Maran Dukh Katya Gurmukh Sahaj Samay. The pain of birth and death is eradicated for the one who becomes Gurmukh, God-centered, and who merges in the state of spiritual peace. The soul and body are given by the Lord. Nothing is outside of His creation. Coming and going, birth and death, cease through the Guru's word. By abiding in truth, and one remains attached to the Eternal One. Vaheguru Ji Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Fateh.
Thank you. Next, will be a wreath laid in the memories of the victims. In memory of all 339 victims, I invite Lata Kada to lay the wreath. Now we have the pleasure to hear a short performance by the children of Rosnakahara National School. Do you all require this mic? You want the mic now? Yes, so.
Good morning, everyone. It is a profound honour for our school to be once again part of this deeply meaningful occasion, marking the 40th anniversary of that tragic plane crash that touched so many lives. Our students' musical performance today is a tribute to the memory of those who were lost, and we hope it will provide some comfort to the victims' families and all those who are grieving. Emer Daly will play Lament on the keyboard. Then the students will play Morning Has Broken on tin whistle. And to conclude, we will sing Let It Be, all directed by music teacher Siobhan O'Regan. Thank you.
Thank you for the marvelous performance, and please join me in once again showing our appreciation. Now we come to the laying of the wreaths by dignitaries. I invite Councillor Joe Carroll, the Mayor of Cork County, to lay a wreath. I invite Taoiseach Micheál Martin to lay a wreath. I invite Honourable Hardeep Singh Puri, the Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas of India, to lay a wreath. I invite the Honourable Gary Anandasangari, the Minister of Public and Safety of Canada, to lay a wreath. I invite the Assistant Commissioner, David Tarbell, of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, to lay a wreath. I invite Captain James Robinson, representing the Naval Service of L.E. Ashland, to lay a wreath. I invite the Assistant Garda Commissioner, Eileen Foster, of the Garda Síochána, to lay a wreath. I invite Marion Carey, the principal of Colesipova Vantry, to lay a wreath. Finally I invite Eilish Hodnett, representing the Ahakista Community Association, to lay a wreath. Now we've come to the dignitary speeches, and I first invite Councillor Joe Carroll, the Mayor of County Cork, to say a few words.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It is a solemn honour to stand with you here in Ahakista today as we mark the 40th anniversary of the tragic bombing of Air India Flight 182. On this day in 1985, 329 lives were lost in a terrible act of violence, leaving families broken and communities forever changed. I want to acknowledge the presence of so many distinguished guests: on Taoiseach Micheál Martin, Minister of State Jerry Buttimer, Canadian Minister of Public Safety Gary Anand Sandagri, Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas of India, His Excellency Akhilesh Mishra, Indian Ambassador to Ireland, His Excellency Dennis King, Canadian Ambassador to Ireland, members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Chief Executive of Cork County Council Myra Morell, elected officials, our Naval Service, our Garda Síochána, the Irish Coast Guard, Fire Services, and members of the local community. Well, just an interesting connection between that day in 1985 and today is we have Minister Jerry Buttimer, which is here today, Minister of State, who in actual fact was a porter in the regional hospital on that day when the bodies were being recovered. Your continued support means a great deal. Most especially, I welcome the families of those lost, including Mariana and Padmini Tarnapati, who travel here year after year in honour of their sons. Your courage and commitment are deeply moving, and your connection to this place is something all of us in County Cork cherish. The Memorial Garden, the sundial and the stone wall engraved with names remind us not just of loss, but of the love, dignity and humanity that rose from the darkness. The bonds that have grown between our communities over the last 40 years, between Ireland, Canada and India, speak to the strength of the human spirit. I want to assure you that this memorial service will continue year after year, and that this garden will be preserved with care and respect for generations to come. May this place always offer peace to those who mourn and serve as a lasting tribute to the lives taken too soon.
Thank you. I now invite Taoiseach Micheál Martin to say a few words.
Mayor of Cork, Conor Joe Carroll, Honorary Minister Gary Ananda Sanguri from Canada, Minister Hardeep Singh Puri from the Government of India, Prime Representative to the UN, Berel, Ambassadors, Minister of State Jerry Buttimer, agus go in ús le galéir idir chléir agus túa is cúis ó nóir domsa a bheith an Ahakista modern law commóda dahad blian an lé ó fásaigh in 1985 in our churtáil etald India amach ón Augusta. Chail 359 duine an maithe madan na tubaiste agus ní cuireann imeacht an ama isteach cheannachar scála na trágóide go mórmhór I bhíneisir go brathach machálaí na tubaiste sin sa timpiste bharafach in Ahmedabad beagán os cionn de lá ó hin. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honoured to be here in Ahakista this morning on this, the 40th anniversary of that terrible day in 1985 that saw the Air India flight cruelly and horrifically brought down off our coastline. It's always a privilege and honour to attend this sober commemoration and to witness the dignity, dedication and care with which you remember your loved ones who died so horrifically 40 years ago today. 329 innocent people lost their lives over the skies of Ireland that morning, and the passing of time does not dim the scale of loss and of this atrocity. We feel the enormity of your loss when we see the faces and read the stories on the memorial here before us. Especially moving are these simple descriptions: student, child, so many young lives taken far too soon. While the scale of this horrific act is of global significance, we should never forget that it is an intensely personal tragedy. The loss and grief felt by you, the families and loved ones of the people who died that June morning in 1985 is deeply personal. One only needs to come here on any year and listen to you speak, witness you placing flowers into the sea or laying wreaths to understand how powerful that grief endures. I'm sure that this year those memories will have added poignancy as those events were echoed tragically with the horrific accident in Ahmedabad just over 10 days ago. And I want to take this opportunity to again offer my sincere condolences and those of the government and the people of Ireland, to the people of India, United Kingdom, Portugal and Canada, and the families of all who perished in that crash. Most of us can only imagine the heartbreak suffered by the loved ones of those who died in that flight. But you here today, you know that suffering. And I know all of those people are in all our thoughts and prayers. It is through sadness and grief that we are gathered here. But what I do find heartening is what has emerged from this tragedy. What all of you have created from this: dignity, love and remembrance. And also a deepened connection between Canada, India and Ireland. And especially the deep bond forged between the families of the victims of this atrocity and the local community here in Ahakista and Cork more generally. And we thank and pay tribute sincerely to the students of Rossnacurra National School for the eloquence and beauty of their music. Today was an important day for you as you, with your music, added grace and dignity to the occasion. We thank you and your teachers, and particularly Siobhan O'Regan, for that. And also, the deep friendship between the families and the local community is manifested in particular through the Kananishka Air Crash Victims Memorial Prize, awarded annually to students in Coláiste Pobal Bheonn 3, with prizes sponsored by families of the victims. It is a moving tribute to and fitting legacy of all of the young people who lost their lives. I want to pay a particular tribute, Mayor, to the teams from Cork County Council, and in particular to the local community here in Ahakista, for your commitment to this commemoration over the last 40 years. I know that this commitment will continue in the years ahead. Gur míle míle maith agah go léir.
Thank you, sir. I invite the Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas of India, Honorable Hardeep Singh Puri, to say a few words.
Taoiseach Michael Martin, the Minister for Public Safety, the Government of Canada, the Honourable Gary Anand Sangari, Mayor of the County of Cork, Councillor Joe Carroll, members of my accompanying Indian delegation, Dr. Padmani Turlapati, Mr. Pradeep Kalsi, representatives from the Irish National Police Service, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Naval Service, I-Line, and the first responders, representatives from the Bantry Community College, Ahakista Community Association, and our brilliant student choir from the Ahakista National School, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. It is a solemn occasion that brings us together. We are gathered here today with deep sorrow and heavy hearts to remember the 329 innocent lives that perished on that fateful day, June 23rd, 1985, exactly 40 years ago. I want to start by paying tribute to the wonderful community of Ahakista and the people of Ireland. The spirit with which the people of Ahakista and nearby areas rose to the occasion in solidarity with the families of the victims is a story that I think has remained unknown but needs to be told and retold. Apart from the emergency assistance in identifying the bodies and locating the collecting of the debris, they opened their homes to complete strangers and generously put them up in their hour of grief. This memorial site stands testimony to a tragedy of that crash on the shores of the Atlantic Ocean, not far from here. Out of the ruins of a tragedy, the unique friendship between the Irish and Indian peoples was deepened. This bond between our two countries has strengthened since then as our economic relationship has diversified, with bilateral trade between India and Ireland scaling new heights. On behalf of India, I therefore would like to once again thank the country of Ireland for continuing to memorialize the Air India 182 tragedy. The destruction of Air India Flight 182 Emperor Kanishka by an act of terrorism is a stain on humanity. As a representative of the Government of India, I once again extend my heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families and the people of the countries from which the passengers were drawn, Canada, India, and Britain. Men, women, and children, more than 80 children had boarded that flight expecting to return their loved ones. They never did. This tragedy was not an accident. It was a deliberate, heinous attack carried out by extremist elements associated with fringe and radical movements who sought to weaken and still seek to weaken countries by such actions through terror. Sadly, this is not merely an episode of the past. Terrorism and extremism remain a very real present-day threat, one that many of our countries know very well. What is often forgotten is the terrorist takes away the most fundamental of rights, the right to life. And whether the act is committed on 9/11 or 26/11 or Pahalgam, the effects are exactly the same. Innocent lives of people who have nothing to do with the differences that might emerge end up laying down their lives. Across the world, many countries face the scourge of terrorism. And as I said, an act of terror committed wherever, whatever be the cause, ends up doing the same thing. It takes away the right of life of innocent peoples. Sadly, in the year 2024, such deaths have increased, and a number I came across that in the year 2024 it has gone up to 8,352. Each year brings deadlier forms of violence against innocent civilians. The world needs to come together, not only in isolated episodes of solemn mourning such as these, but in collective, proactive efforts to combat this terrorism. Ideologies may differ, political differences may exist, but we need to remain vigilant. We need to recognize these dangerous trends, which instead of disappearing, seem to be gaining further ground. On behalf of India, I call upon the global community to remember our shared responsibility. I call upon our Canadian friends in particular to deepen our bilateral collaboration in countering this. Canada is a valued partner and a friend of India. We share vibrant cultural and economic relations with each other, and we are bound by democratic traditions. And those ideals require us to act together against all forms of extremism and terrorism. When separatist violence and separatist voices find sanctuary, when extremist figures glorify violence and they threaten not just the people whose lives they take away, they threaten societies at large. By working together, sharing intelligence, shutting off funding channels, countering radicalization, we can ensure that those who continue to promote hate and terror cannot succeed. India stands ready to do more. Our security agencies, our intelligence apparatus, and our diplomatic channels remain committed to partnering with Canada and all other countries. Let us redouble our efforts to ensure that what happened on 23rd June 1985 is never repeated. Not here, not in India, not anywhere in the world. Flight AI 182 tragedy was one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in aviation history. It has left scars that have not healed even after 40 years. I have personally had the benefit of knowing many of you, those of you who lost their dear ones, and over the years we have grieved together, we have reached out, and I'm afraid even 4 decades later, some of us are still not coming to terms with that horrific accident or act of crime. Let this commemoration send a powerful, united message that those who chose the path of terror will never prevail over the enduring bonds of humanity, democracy, and friendship. Our nations have mourned together for 40 years, and we will continue to honor the memory of those who lost by striving for peace, security, and justice. May the memories of all those who perished remain forever in our hearts. I thank you very much.
Thank you. I invite the Minister of Public Safety of Canada, Honourable Gary Anandasagarty, to say a few words.
Distinguished guests, friends, families gathered here today. We've come together far from Canada's shores to remember one of the most senseless and violent acts in Canadian history. An act of terror over the Atlantic that took the lives of 329 people, most of them Canadians. The bombing of Air India Flight 182 40 years ago today, June 23rd, 1985, remains the single worst act of terrorism and mass murder in Canadian history. For the families gathered here with us today, the 4 decades that have passed will not have dulled the memory of that awful day. Your loved ones were taken from you in an act of pure hatred and evil. It is a burden that still endures. When you received the terrible news, numb with grief, you traveled here to Cork County in search of your loved ones. The Irish people opened their homes and their hearts to these strangers in the face of devastating loss. This community, your community, provided hospitality, comfort, and support to these grieving families in their darkest hour. Your generosity continues to this day, and you're forever embedded in the hearts of the families of Air India 182. You also have a nation, Canada, that is eternally grateful to you. Our shared history has once again been strengthened by this tragedy. I was 13 years old when this horrific incident took place. My family had moved to Canada a couple of years earlier. School holidays were about to begin, and a few weeks earlier, I had secured a part-time job at a grocery store on Gerrard Street in Toronto's Little India. I remember taking the streetcar and getting off. Instead of the usual hustle and bustle of a lively high street, what I heard was silence. What I felt around me was the community's devastation. I did not know what happened, but I knew it was something terrible. The silence soon gave way to tears as I walked this all too familiar street. I saw the shock and disbelief on people's faces. The joyful smiles I was used to seeing were replaced by stoic stares, people desperate for answers. The people on Gerrard Street, Canadians with roots in the Indian subcontinent, Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, and Muslims, all were united in their individual and collective loss. Terrorism, the deliberate act premised on hate, did not discriminate. Gerrard Street, a microcosm of this Canadian community, would never be the same. You carry the burden of history and the failures of our systems to protect your loved ones. Justice was never served, notwithstanding your deep desire and constant search and yearning for it. Vous portez le fardeau de l'histoire et de l'échec de nos systèmes à protéger vos proches. Justice n'a jamais été rendue malgré votre profond désir et votre quête constante. When I met with family members on Saturday before I left to come here, at the foot of the Humber River, the site of the Air India Memorial in Toronto, I was reminded of the depth of the disappointment that persists among the dwindling family members of Air India 182. Their response to this tragedy is rooted in their desire to never again see this type of violence perpetuated against any Canadian. This is a responsibility that I take to heart, and this is a responsibility that our government will uphold. While we grieve with you today, this anniversary is a reminder to governments around the world that we must condemn terrorism and fight it at every turn. Canada will continue to do its part in this fight. Together, we must stand united against hate, intolerance, and division. But today, we remember, we mourn, we grieve, we offer thanks and gratitude to the people of Ireland and all those who lit the sacred fire by their deeds in our darkest moment. Today, I think about the families who were killed in its entirety, the parents who would never see their children again, and the kids who would never see their parents again. The siblings, ones who survived and the ones who never returned home. So many dreams destroyed, potential lost. Every one of the 329 people on Air Canada 182, Air India 182, left behind fond memories and experiences that you continue to cherish to this day. The yearning to hold on to your loved ones one last time, even for a short time, I'm sure, lives in your hearts and minds. I hope this memorial, this ceremony, this coming together offers some solace, and that your loved ones are among us today. In their memory and in their name, we promise to do everything in our power to ensure that this history is never repeated. This is our solemn duty to all of you, the victims' families here today, and to all Canadians. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you. I now invite Pope Ray, the Canadian ambassador to the United Nations, to say a few words.
Distinguished guests and members of the families who are here, I deeply appreciate the chance to say a few words. Some of you may be asking, who is this strange man suddenly emerging from the shadows? I had the great honor to be asked by the Government of Canada to do a report on the bombing in 2005. And the title of that report was simply Lessons to be Learned. I can honestly say that no job that I've undertaken in public service has had a greater impact on me personally. I had the opportunity to meet with families across Canada, but also around the world, to learn more about what actually took place, to understand the significance that that terrible event 40 years ago has had, and to ask the Canadian people and the Canadian government to learn lessons from what has happened. And much of what we've heard today has reinforced that view and that reality. Let me just say a couple of things. First of all, what is the first lesson? The first lesson is that this crime was an act of hate. All terror begins with hatred. All terror begins with the terrible lie that it is justified to kill others in the name of a theory or in the name of an idea. It is never justified to commit violence of this kind. There is no justification. There never can be. There's no excuse. There's no context. There's no explaining it away. We have to gather together today, and in all of the memory that we're undergoing and experiencing, to agree that above all, we will do everything we can to deal with hate and with the terror that hate produces. I think the comments that have been made by all of the leaders who've spoken have reinforced one other lesson to be learned. And that is, we can actually do more. As a Canadian, I feel so strongly that this act of terror must be etched deeply into the texture of the history of our country. That we need to embrace its meaning and embrace its reality. Canadians need to be aware and know that what happened because people living in our country planned and plotted the placing of a bomb and the explosion of that bomb that meant that 331 people, because 2 died in Narita Airport, were killed as a result of that plan. It was not something that happened elsewhere. It was not something that was planned in another place. It was planned in our midst. And finally, the lesson that we can learn is to appreciate the strength of the love that we share for each other. The generosity and the welcome that the people of Ireland have shown to all of us over the last 40 years has been extraordinary. When you walk down this path, you don't feel hate, you feel love. And you feel a love that requires time and attention and care. And that's exactly what has been shown by the people of Ireland. We can all agree that whatever our politics might be, we can unite successfully against hatred and against terror and against violence. And we can, in fact, make a difference, but only if we embrace one other thing. And that one other thing is the truth. The truth of what happened. The importance of dissolving the lies, of fighting the propaganda, and accepting and embracing the truth of what took place. When we take these steps together, then we do something wonderful. Standing over there, looking at the rain starting to drift in and the weather suddenly getting cooler. It's a very Irish day, if I may say so. I then realized that the sun was coming and the blue sky was coming. And to me, this has been a symbol of what this day has been all about. And so we remember the words that are contained on this memorial, but the words that are contained on every memorial we have. We have 4 memorials in Canada, and we have the one here. Time flies, suns rise, and shadows fall. Let it pass. Love reigns over all. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. And finally, I invite Mark Stack, the first responder, to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark, and over many years I've come to meet and know so many people here and call them friend. I speak today on behalf of the first responders that day. 40 years ago to the minute, I was officer of the watch on a cargo ship just over 100 miles from here, on passage from Canada to Ireland. And we received a message asking ships to keep a lookout for an aircraft with which contact had been lost. So we turned for that position, and we believed that we were on a rescue mission. A little over an hour later, a lot of things happened in quick succession. First, we received a new message, a distress message, telling us that the aircraft missing was a 747 with 329 souls on board. Second, we then sighted the first object in the sea, which was an uninflated escape slide, and we broadcast that information. The third thing was that we were joined very, very quickly by an RAF Nimrod multi-engine jet aircraft that advised us that we were at the edge of 110 square nautical miles of wreckage and debris. Deep inside, I think all of us on the Laurentian Forest knew that day that our hopes of rescue had just been eliminated. First responders is a relatively new term, and normally now we think of professional emergency services, the fire, the police, the ambulance, the Coast Guard. Back in 1985, we were not trained, we were not prepared, and we were not equipped for our role that day. But I saw seafarers from Scotland, England, Ireland, Norway, fishermen from Spain, airmen from the RAF, the Royal Navy, the United States Air Force perform extraordinary acts of bravery and compassion. I witnessed the remarkable heroism of the crew of the warship Aisling, swimming in ocean 1.5 miles deep, and yet no one was saved. Later I also learned of the epic voyage of Valencia lifeboat, whose coxswain and crew took a 52-foot vessel over 100 miles out into the Atlantic, literally sailing off the edge of the charts that they had on board. The events of that day, for those on scene, were overwhelming. The trauma, the tragedy, and the sadness changed us all, forever. Those effects and memories do not diminish. And they can lead to dark and lonely days and nights, and you can feel quite adrift on a stormy sea. The fact that we saved no one felt like failure, and this is illogical, but it makes it no less real. What I can say is that the family of seafarers and airmen that day gave of their best, and that those that we found were treated with dignity and such care and such kindness. When I discovered this place, Ahakista, and I came to meet others who were there that day and heard their story like mine and different, I also met the families. I met Padmini and Babu, whose son Sanjay we helped bring home. Also Murti, Sushil, Babu, Sanjay, and many others. And despite their huge grief and loss, I and my colleagues have always been shown such love and such comfort, lifted up from the low points. Then there is this West Cork community here in Ahakista that wraps you in its warm embrace, a place of peace and safety. It's been my privilege to speak today on behalf of the hundreds that responded that day. And I want to thank you on their behalf for also remembering them. And lastly, on a personal note, can I ask you to take a moment to look around at those here. Just look around you at the children and the friends that are gathered here, and capture those images in your mind. And when you feel adrift on stormy waters, remember them, because this is what care, this is what love, and this is what humanity looks like. These are the lifelines that we all need at times, and that keep us safe and secure. Use them. I know I have, and I'm most grateful to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we come to the victims' families speakers section. I now invite our victims' family first speaker, Dr. Padmini Tullapadi.
Dear dignitaries, families and friends, good morning. Already 40 years have passed by since our dear loved ones perished in the worst mass murder of 329 innocent victims, mostly women and children, committed by Sikh extremists bombing Air India Kanishka Flight 182 that exploded off the Irish coast in June 23, 1985. Not a day goes by without feeling the pain and the loss of our loved ones in this horrific tragedy. Today is one more milestone anniversary in our lifetime, and I feel happy seeing so many of us gathered here to share the grief. We have all grown older, memories have mellowed, but the heart still feels and the mind knows the love and loss in all of us. Our firstborn Sanjay, aptly named by my sister Sujata, meant foresight and wisdom. And looking back, I recall the gentle giant of a boy, 5 feet 10 inches, was only 14 years old. He spent a year with my mother in India and was told that mothers were godlike and should be revered. So when he came back to us in Canada, he'd walk on the outer side of the pavement, carry all the groceries from the grocery shop. When he saw me going to the basement of the apartment to do laundry, he would leave watching the TV and help me so forth and so on in countless ways. I never heard him complain or raise his voice. My husband found him in the corner of the kitchen floor typing because he did not want the typing sound to disturb our sleep if he sat in the dining or drawing room tables to do so. I was proud of him, but I was also worried about him. After his demise, when his school teacher met me, she brought me his work. In his work was a poem, Death Be Not Proud, written by him when he was 11-years old, after he learned that our dog died. While he was in India, the dog was with us in Nigeria, where we were working at that time, and Snoopy died poisoned by our house steward. Our second son, Deepak, was a happy-go-lucky, mischievous fellow, and I was always scolding him for not keeping his room tidy. On the day of his travel, he told me, "Mum, I made my bed." And later on, when I went to his room, I found his bed was neatly done, but all his things were dumped under his bed. After his death, I got a phone call from an 80-year-old woman who said Deepak used to go to her apartment and ask her whether she was doing fine. What do you want? Why? Because you're getting old. He used to help her getting things like milk, etc., needed by her. She gave him $1. When he told us his father scolded him for taking money. So he went back to return. Why? She asked. Because you're old. He got a newspaper distributing route when he was 11 years old, underaged for the job, telling them that he has a 14-year-old brother who was not interested. So what something's missing in my eyes. So what did age have to do with it? He got the job, and I requested Sanjay to go with him because I did not want Deepa going alone, delivering newspapers to all the apartments in about 3 buildings. Sanjay went with him, carrying the newspaper in a pushcart, and Deepak would deliver the newspaper. When Deepak was paid, I asked him to share it with Sanjay. He said, "Mom, don't you know you don't share your wife or your money?" After his demise, I received a check for $1,000 for his participation in all TV science pageant contests for children of his age. He used to tell me I'm a born actor, Mom, and played a few school roles in school plays. A few years earlier, when both of them came to Nigeria from India en route home from the airport, I told them of the death of their dog Snoopy, poisoned by our house steward. Deepak raved and ranted, and how useless a doctor was I that I couldn't even save a little puppy. Sanjay was silent. At school, when asked by his teacher, 11-year-old Sanjay wrote, "Death, be not proud." I'm going to read it. Death, be not proud. Snoopy, my best friend, snatched away were you before I could be there to defend. Death, be not proud. There is nothing for you to applaud. Your seeking him seems purposeless. When no one was home, Snoopy was tiny and defenseless. Your victory is empty, for though Snoopy is no more, he lives in my heart forevermore. In all eyes dumb and mute, see and feel I the pain acute. In all things tiny and helpless, death's work seems so senseless. Death comes to all, it's only a part. Like when the plays end, the actors must depart. When my time comes, I too will go like royalty to meet Snoopy with dignity. But death, you are condemned by one and all to feel ever so small. That says it all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Padma. I now invite our next victim family's second speaker, Pradeep.
Sorry to keep everybody on their feet. Hopefully, I'll try and keep this very brief. First of all, I wanted to apologize to the choir for having gotten you out of bed so early, but the songs were so magnificent and touching, and were very reflective of the kindness and gentleness of the Irish people. So I wanted to express deep gratitude for everyone here and relatives who have traveled from all the way from Japan to as close as the UK. Heartfelt gratitude again for the Irish people for keeping us in their hearts. Everywhere we go, we're just touched by the kindness, the gentleness of the Irish people. It's just astounding. And it keeps us coming back year after year. Just a little bit of context, my mother and I were in India. We were waiting for Sister Indra's plane at the airport, and then we got the horrific news as we were waiting for her. There was some brief mention of the horrific details of that particular flight on that very day. Father was busy traveling Punjab and many other places in India because he wanted to make sure it was safe for my sister, myself, and another sister who was also going to be with us. every year, mother and father would make this pilgrimage to Ahakista, and basically to tend the farmers' fields here, and just of course it's across the Manus Bay. And what follows is, in my little text here, what follows is basically telling their story in a very brief way from the perspective of the Irish flowers that mother and father were always so involved with in tending to every time they came. So here's this text coming from the perspective of the flowers. A ground elder is what I am, and along with the blackthorn weeds, we remember a time not so long ago when a gentle woman began plucking out the thistles and thorny shrubs in this farmer's field overlooking Dunmanus Bay. Year after year, she would come to relentlessly and silently replace my thorny friends with the bells of Ireland, the shamrocks, the sea asters and hydrangeas, which she loved so much. And as she had done for so many years, she would weep in a silent agony as she plucked and sewed. Her companion, my father, who was in a similar state of anguish, he would gently caress her face, wipe the steady stream of tears rolling down from her cheeks, once joyful cheeks. And then with his heartbroken and melancholy face, he would often turn his gaze toward the salty Irish coast, where the sky turned fiery red with the explosion of 329 brilliant celestial beings, stars. And in a thunderous rage, he would look up, our thunderous rage with the voice of a thunder god, that the description of my father. He would cry out, you should have taken a life lived rather than a life not yet begun. As a rugged sea blasts the coast with wave upon wave, the weary voices memorializing the tragic events of Flight 182, it wafts over the weeds and shrubs and flowers alike, and the deeply saddening vibrations cause our stems and petals to wither in the wake of the precious lives lost. But as the many travelers and family members recount the blessed tales of Flight 182, that we just heard from Dr. Padmani, my roots remain anchored and my stem is encouraged to stand tall once again. And so as it happens that over time, the grounds become more and more barren as my fellow weeds and flowers wither and fall to the earth, for the gentlewoman and gentleman return no more. And then an old boatman appears with his own withered, salty face to recount the tale of a family that had commissioned his fishing trawler to that dreaded place where that metal bird of flight fragmented 30,000 feet above the sometimes treacherous waters of the Atlantic. And it was there that they gathered to immerse the last remains of the gentleman, gentlewoman, into the Sea of Galilee in an effort to rejoin the precious life taken before her prime. And in a shaky, trembling season's voice, that old fisherman noted and bowed his head that after 40 years, people, gardens, events, and memories seemingly fade away until they ultimately reunite back into the source.
Thank you. I now invite Mr. Narayan Sugrapati to give the vote of thanks.
dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, and children, I am pleased to see a large number of families representing the victims who attended this milestone anniversary today. It is 40 years since we, the families, lost our dear and loved ones when the plane Air India 182 Kanishka exploded in midair, caused by bombs placed by Sikh extremists living in Canada. It has resulted in the death of 329 innocent victims on this plane and 2 more victims in Narita Airport in Japan. Consisting of mainly women and 83 children under the age of 13 years, and most of the victims were Canadians. Today, we observe this 40th anniversary of the mass murder in Canadian history, which cut short the lives of promising young innocent victims and shattered the lives of the living families of victims. In this senseless tragedy, there were families that had entirely perished, children left without their father or mother, parents losing all their children, and spouses losing their partner and children. This pain and grief continues forever. Families have no choice but to live the rest of their lives with the pain of losing their loved ones. In all this doom and gloom, there enter the Irish people with their kind-hearted help. The compassion, the support, and hospitality we receive from the Irish people, particularly the local community, is beyond description, and it had been a source of strength for us to return year after year to this place and stay in peace for a few days. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. On behalf of all the families, I thank you all for attending today's service, sharing our grief. I thank the Ahakista school children and school staff for the excellent rendition of music, and particularly thank the school for arranging a musical presentation on the keyboard presented to the school by the families. I thank the Cork County Council, Pantry Engineers Office staff for the excellent upkeep and maintenance of the gardens and our monument. I would like to thank the Cork County Council for providing all the support in maintenance of this memorial and gardens. And I would like to give my special thanks to Ruth O'Brien, Senior Executive Engineer, Cork County Pantry Office, and Noreen Mahoney, who is deputizing for her now, and her office staff and workers for all the help and support we received during our stay in this area. I also would like to make a special mention of all our Irish friends we have developed a relationship for the last 40 years. Those well-wishers, Michael Murphy, Mary Haggerty, James Haggerty, Angela Muckley, Agnes Haggerty, Kevin Healy, Frank O'Donovan, Timothy O'Donovan, Nuala O'Donovan, and thank them all for the support we received all these years. I would like to make special mention in the presence of RCMP officials from Canada, paying respects wearing their red serge uniforms, as this is a milestone anniversary for us. I also would like to thank our friends and families, well-wishers, Gary Bass, Ruth Bass, Mark Stagg, and family for their continued presence at the ceremony with us, sharing our grief. I would like to convey our thanks to Pantry Engineers Office and Cork County Council for arranging refreshments at the gate for the guests gathered today. Thank you all once again for attending today's service. goodbye till we meet next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We now come to the presentations. I would now like to invite Commodore Hugh Tully, retired Executive Officer, Naval Service, who was on board the L.E. Ashling in 1985, to make a presentation to Narayana and Padmini Tirupati on behalf of the ship's company of L.A. Ashley. I now invite Captain James Robinson, DSM, retired Naval Service, to make a presentation to the Mayor of the County of Cork on behalf of the crews of L.E. Ashling.
Why don't you come here?
And finally, Gerard O'Flynn, who will now make a further presentation to the Mayor of the County Cork on behalf of the Irish Coast Guards. And I beg your pardon, I missed one here, which is an important one. I now invite Gerald Quillen from the Irish Coast Guard to make a presentation to Narayana and Padmini Tirupati on behalf of the Coast Guards. I've just been informed that we'll have a delay. I've just been informed that there is a flyover from the Irish Coast Guards, and it will take another 4 minutes, so just relax till that and you'll enjoy it. Can I have your attention, please? Hello? Hello? When I ask you all to relax, I hope you'd stay where you are because the function's not yet finished. Thank you. Yeah. Then I can conclude it. I can finish this, and you've been singing it quite a long time. Yeah, finish now. Well, I have to just give the thanks. Yeah. You're leaving now? Because I'm yet to finish it. Yeah, that's right. That's what I was saying. Just go forward. Yeah, I'd like to talk to you. Hello, how are you? Please accept.
Nice to see you again. Yeah. Oh, yes, I just said that. Yeah. Pardon? Yes. No, Brendan is here and Dave is here. Yes.
It's taking too long. No, thank you. Oh, this one.
Yeah, still there. And 4 days a week now.
Well, Hello, can I have your attention, please? Hello, may I have your attention, please? Thank you. Just to let you know, there's a slight change again in the program. I don't know what's happening. It may be coming on later, so I'll just continue with the ceremony. It's coming. Oh, well.
They're desperate to prove you wrong.